Welcome to Screener to Stream It,
where we take a look at a movie that's in theaters now
versus one you can stream at home,
and we try to decide which one should you go with. All right, on this episode of Screener to Stream It, we're talking The Kingsman Part 2, The Golden Circle. So, picks up kind of where the first one left off. I mean, some time has passed, but it's the same thing. We've got Eggsy, who is the, former tramp? No, he was just a bum, and now he's...
Thug?
Yeah, thug's a good word. Former thug, now turned super secret agent, and, just living that life still, and he's got him a girlfriend, so that's pretty cool. And everything's fine, just kind of, secret agent life going along, and then a new supervillain comes out and makes an all-out war against the Kingsmen, so they have to go underground and, kind of regroup, initiate their doomsday protocol and fight back, and that means violence.
And we like violence.
So, the Kingsmen get hunted, they end up coming to fight back, and of course, Eggsy's trying to balance saving the world with his girlfriend, and if all goes well, they'll make some new friends and save the world. So, got a lot of action, got a lot of adventure, and a ton of A-list actors.
Yeah, it did.
Throughout this whole spectacle. What are we going to rate this one?
We're going to give it 3 stars.
All right, so Kingsman 2 Golden Circle.
So, it seemed to me like I loved the first one. The first one was great.
So much fun.
That would probably be a 5-star one for me. I love the first one.
Easily 4, arguably 5.
The second one tries to emulate the first one, and they kind of do everything the first one does, but literally every single aspect of it was just not quite as good.
Well, there are a few new fun things. I mean, the girlfriend was a different dynamic because you didn't have anything quite like that in the first one.
Well, technically he met her in the first one.
Well, that's true.
Although I did not realize that was her until about halfway through the movie.
Well, yeah.
But, it threw in some other things, but overall, like, the far-reaching arc of everything, he's trying to save the day, you've got the, he's meeting all these new people, we've got the over-the-top supervillain, and I didn't even realize it until we got in the car and we're headed home. My wife said something about that she didn't think the villain was threatening enough. Because Julianne Moore plays the villain, and she's this crazy lady, but she's just kind of a crazy lady.
Yeah. And
she's like, oh, that's not really that threatening. But then I thought back on the first one. Well, the first one had Samuel L. Jackson, but he was a lisping nerd,
right?
And he wasn't that threatening.
He mostly got his henchmen to do the bad things, well, just like she did.
She did the same thing, and I was like, oh, they even had the...
She had robotic attack dogs.
She didn't have robotic attack dogs.
That's menacing.
But they had Elton John.
Elton John.
Who probably the best part of the entire movie was Elton John.
So that moment where... Was he wearing a chicken suit? Like what?
I don't think it was supposed to be a chicken suit, but it was covered in feathers and it was rainbow colored.
And he literally kicked butt. Literally.
Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, Karate, and everybody. And no, it was great. But I don't think... I think, like, if you looked at the villains, I think I like Samuel L. Jackson a little bit more. I thought he was a little funnier. And,
I will grant you that, yes.
If you look at the henchmen, we had the guy with a robotic arm. In this one, we had the girl with the sword legs. I thought the girl with the sword legs was better.
Yeah, I know it's better, but I'd completely forgotten about her. But now that you mentioned it, it makes sense. They'd have, one guy with the crazy superpower, the top henchman, I guess, who's causing all the trouble.
But it, like I said, it just seemed like they did everything the first one did, but it just wasn't quite as good. It still was enjoyable. I was a little worried about it when it started. There was a scene...
Oh, it was a crazy action scene.
It starts out with a car chase, and it's very CGI, and it's very over the top. But
not a little over the top, like very over the top.
And I was a little bit worried about it, and I'm like, ooh, this is the way the movie's going to go. But it did kind of calm down. And
yeah, they took time to then develop the story that was happening. And we had the same director, same writer, so that helps. So he's kind of trying to continue that. And I don't know, it works. It's definitely not what I would consider a bad sequel. where they just like, oh, let's cash in on this,
No.
and it's just crap. It wasn't. It was fun and worth a watch.
It was fun. It was enjoyable. When I walked out, I was totally happy I had seen it. Didn't feel like that was a waste of my time. Like, I enjoyed it. I just felt like the first one had this like epic grandness, and the second one didn't. It had the epic, but it seemed like it was trying too hard. Like, it was trying to be an epic. And I can't figure out if they were trying to replicate the first one or if they were trying to distance themselves from the first one. But it's basically a spy movie spoof.
Right.
And so you end up doing...
not exactly a spoof.
Well, not exactly a spoof, but it's
like making fun
on,
with spies instead of fun of spies, if that makes sense.
But it just felt like we got the same... It was the same thing as the first one.
Yeah.
We got a villain's trying to take over the world, got a nefarious plan, got an evil henchman.
Yeah.
And like you said, they threw in a lot of little different things. One of them being the statesman. So when the
I really liked the statesman. I think my wife didn't like them at all for whatever reason. I thought they were great.
I didn't like the statesman either. What was the protocol called? It was
the Doomsday Protocol.
Doomsday Protocol. So when the Doomsday Protocol goes into effect, they have to go find this other organization, and they're Americans, and they're called the Statesmen instead of the Kingsmen. And it was Channing Tatum. They were
cowboys, basically.
The Kingsmen are all named after Arthurian legend. They're Galahad, Lancelot, and King Arthur.
And the statesmen they brewed whiskey, I guess, and so they were all named after hard liquors, which was pretty funny.
So,
not alcohol, definitely. One of them was champagne. So.
Well, but Jeff Bridges was running it, and what was his?
He was champagne.
That's right.
Yeah. But call him Champ if you know what's good for you.
And then Channing Tatum was tequila.
Yes.
And Holly Berry. Holly Berry was ginger ale.
Yeah.
And I have no idea who the guy
was.
That was whiskey.
Now, he reminded me of Smokey and the Bandit. What's that guy?
Burt Reynolds.
Burt Reynolds. And I knew it wasn't. Like, it obviously wasn't. But it looked like he was trying to look like Burt Reynolds, which made it funny to me.
But I didn't. So Channing Tatum was okay. He was in the movie a minute and a half, maybe.
Yeah, his part was a lot smaller than I expected.
Holly Berry was fine. She was in the movie very minuscule little bit. Jeff Bridges was weird but funny, and he was in it for a very little bit. Most of the statesman representatives were whiskey, and he just kind of annoyed me. So my feeling on the statesmen is, they kind of annoyed me, but it was mostly his fault. And he really didn't seem to have, I don't know. He didn't seem like a good, well-developed character to me.
And they did give him a little backstory, but a little.
Yeah.
A little more probably would have been good, especially if it had been given earlier on, to get him developed a little instead of kind of like, oh, by the way, here's this. Like, oh.
And we brought Harry back, which is in the trailers.
Yeah, that would have been a spoiler, but they spoiled it in the trailers. And shame on them for that. Shame. But I have to say, I was super worried about that because of how he went out in the first one. I thought, there is no way. But they made that work. They made it plausible. I'm like, okay.
They explained away that very well.
It's one of the best ex post facto explanations I've ever seen. I'm like, yeah, I buy it.
and I really thought when he popped up in the trailer, I was like, okay, you can't give away that big of a spoiler in the trailer.
Right?
Like, there's got to be something more to it. And no, he just... And they had that moment in the film where it has that pause.
Yeah.
Where you just know they're waiting on the audience to be like, oh! And there's no, because we saw him in the
We
trailers.
already knew that was coming.
Yeah, we knew it was him.
I'm mad at them for doing that in the trailer because I would have loved to have been surprised by that.
That would have been a great moment in the
That
film.
would have sucked me in, but I was expecting it, and so good job, trailer guys.
Harry, so because he was shot in the head, he has amnesia and is having memory problems and things.
Right.
And so his character wasn't quite as fun because he wasn't quite in control of himself.
Well, it was upsetting. As upsetting as it was having him shot in the face in the first place, which was really upsetting. But having him back but not back was upsetting. But it worked.
Like, there was supposed to be some comedy in there that he couldn't remember anything and he couldn't do anything anymore.
I don't know. That was just alarming to me. I was like, oh, poor Harry.
It was a little more sad. Eggsy's still Eggsy. Everything he did I was fine with, and he really is the main main character, so that was fine. I was a little, I don't want to say it felt rushed, but it felt rushed. It seemed like a whole bunch of things came at us really fast.
Yeah.
And like it was switching ideas, and it was boom, 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 boom. Some of them were really funny. Like you said, the Elton John part was
everything
hilarious.
with Elton John was fantastic. That
It really was. I thought the meat grinder was hilarious.
Oh.
That's my sense of humor.
I mean, I like violence, but whew, that was. Yeah.
No, I like that a bunch. But I don't know. It's hard to find something positive to say about it. But I feel like I keep talking negatives, but it's not a negative. No, it was fun. It just wasn't up to the first one.
And it's hard. It's hard to live up to that sometimes when something is so good. It's hard to make a sequel that's as good. I think hopefully there'll be a third one and they can do better, have another shot at it, because it was good enough. I'd watch more.
I think if the Statesman, because that's basically our new character introductions besides the villains, was the Statesman. I think if the Statesman had been better, if they had been funnier and more likable and more engaging, then I think. But they were just a little off-putting, a little weird, like you said. But I think if they had been better, I think that would have taken up a bunch of the slack. Although I did like Halle Berry's
Plus,
character.
If more of the Statesmen had been involved, I kind of started wondering that at some point, because you've got this really horrific plan. Millions of people will die, and they send one Statesman? Shouldn't you round up everybody and go, no? Okay.
I don't know if we should say that or not, but they kill an awful lot of the Kingsmen. Which, I mean, for the most part, it's okay because you never know most of them. But at the same time, it's like, let's just wipe the slate clean type thing, and that doesn't.
I mean, it was unsettling for sure, because you knew it was bad. It was really bad, and they did that well. I don't know. You just once you got off balance there, it was hard to really kind of recover. And
and maybe that's what everything just felt off. And not off, this is bad, but it just, half a degree.
Right.
And something just didn't sit well.
You'd be comfortable if it was just over just a little, but no, it's just off and weird.
But it did have enough good little funny moments and action moments and things that made it a fun movie. It just didn't have that certain something. It didn't tie all together and make greatness. But I definitely think, I'm like I said, not mad I saw it. I definitely think if you like the first one and you enjoy that type of thing, you'll watch the second one and you'll be fine.
And one final thought I've got is I actually did like the villain. I mean, she was ridiculous, but
I liked her too.
I loved all the 50s references she kept coming out with, because she'd been living in isolation, and because she's a drug dealer. Well, not really a drug dealer. She manufactures the drugs and sends them to the dealers. Anyway, so she's living in isolation in Cambodia or somewhere in the jungle. Or Colombia, or I forget. Anyway, so she's living on this volcano, and so she's built this little 50s town, Poppy Town. So it's got all this
Poppy.
It's got a 50s diner, and of course opium is a poppy plant, so it had that dual meaning, which was great. But it had a 50s diner and just all this 50s future past stuff. That was really neat by itself, and I love that. Then her robot dogs, I didn't even realize it till about
Benny and
3 days later. Is Benny and Jet. Fantastic.
She has Elton John has a captive, and she has 2 dogs named Benny and Jet.
Yep.
That was great.
It was great. Okay, so if you're not feeling like going out to the theaters to see this one, what do you got for a streaming option?
I almost wanted to say Austin Powers, because you do get a spoof of a spy movie there. Yeah,
it's a little more on the funny side, a little less on the techie side, but yeah, I see that.
But I don't want to say Austin Powers because it's just too far comedy for me.
Okay.
While this is a funny movie and there are funny moments, to me this is more of a spy movie, an action movie with comedic moments in it.
Right. The characters are where the levity comes from, but the world they created takes itself very seriously.
Yes.
So that...
And there's real stakes and danger.
Right.
And so I'm going to go with John Wick.
I like John Wick.
So not necessarily a spy movie, it's a hitman movie, but you still got the stylized violence. It's over the top. The premise is absolutely ridiculous for John Wick. Some Russian mobsters kill his dog, so he sets out on a blood vendetta to destroy the Russian mafia because they killed his dog and stole his car too.
Well, really, he's just after the guys that did it, but anyone that gets in the way is fair game in his mind. So
he has to kill an awful lot of people.
A lot of people get in the way on purpose.
But it's so stylized and it's so over the top, and it's just such a fun ride. And I think since John Wick came out, when I was a little kid, I used to watch movies over and over and over and over and over, over again. And as I got older, just like I remember them better or something. I just can't sit down and watch the same movie over and over.
It's just
and over
not the same.
I think I've seen John Wick 4 times since it's come out.
Oh, I'd watch it again.
And that's definitely one of those. That would have been a 5-star if it's on TV or something.
It's just fun.
It's great.
It's just so much fun.
So much fun. So that's my recommendation. If you don't want to go to the movies and watch Kingsman Golden Circle, see John Wick.
I am going to go with Get Smart with Steve Carell, the remake. It's fairly recent, maybe 10 years ago. I'm not sure. Was it Anne Hathaway played the lady?
I don't think so.
I don't remember. I've forgotten who the lady lead is, and I'm sorry for that.
I just
should have looked it up.
Dwayne Johnson was in it.
Was he really?
Wasn't he when he in the office with him?
He may have been. It's been a while since I've seen it, but the gist is, for Get Smart, he's a bit of a goofball, but he's a secret agent with all the cool techie spy stuff. He's got a phone in his shoe and all that crazy stuff.
That is something John Wick lacks, is that cool spy
tech.
The
neat spy tech. And Get Smart is just teeming with that. It is also a little more on the comedy side because Steve Carell's character...
You're right. I remember that.
He just can't quite do anything right. So everything he touches just kind of goes wrong. And Anne Hathaway kind of is there and... It makes it work out.
It had some, again, it had some great like comedic moments. There were some like hardcore spy moments, but it never did take itself as seriously as...
Right. The world was mostly serious in that one with a slight levity, but the characters were also, a lot of comedy that came from them, and Steve Carell especially doing what he's good at. So that's my recommendation, is Get Smart.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
I didn't think of that one.
Well, that is our time for today. Thank you so much for watching Screen It or Stream It.
And remember, don't take your kids to the movies on Tuesday nights, because that's when we go.